Hey Insiders, Daniel Pickett here on AFI TV, and today we are getting an early look at the new DC Collectibles Batman Black and White Wave 1 of action figures. That's right, I said action figures. As you know, DC Collectibles has a long-running statue line, also called Batman Black and White, that's been very, very prolific over the years. They have done dozens upon dozens of really iconic Batmans done by some of the greatest Batman artists, as well as doing some more obscure and abstract ones, and even venturing more into the Batman family with a Nightwing, a Robin, some Jokers, and then Harley Quinn has her own subline. But this is the first action figure line that they are doing based on Black and White. And it makes sense, you know, they had some success turning the DC bombshells from statues into action figures, so now we are doing that with Batman Black and White, and these three figures are the first, the Wave 1. Now, as you can probably tell if you have a history with DC, you can see that these are repaints of existing figures that have been out before. I get why they do that, sort of, you know, testing the water, seeing if this is a format that people will buy into. Not everyone will watch a black and white movie, so will everyone buy a black and white action figure? We don't know. I certainly hope so, because it's a great format that's very interesting. Like, I've been a collector of the statues for many, many years, and you know, it harkens back to that, you know, that great sort of black and white line art, and you know, just you can see all the great sculpting and contour and just thought that went into each of the sculpts. So I think the action figures will you know, show a lot of that great contrast as well. So these are brand new packages, which I think are really cool. You can see we've got a new, you know, they are black and white, but a little splash of color. They've got these great new gold seals on them for 20 years of DC Collectibles direct from the source. That is including DC Direct and then DC Collectibles. And when they say direct from the source, they mean that they are in the same building, the same floors, the same area as all the publishing, so they know what's going on in the DC universe, and they are able to react and plan around that, which is, it's very, very cool. There's not a lot of toy companies that have that sort of access that can really not predict, but act in you know, a sort of precognizant manner, so that they can release things almost not exactly day and date, but more have things in the works when they know they will be released into the general public, as far as publishing and or, you know, direct to DVD and even the theatrical movies. So 20 years, pretty incredible. I've been there all of those 20 years. I was actually buying, you know, I have some of the pre-DC Direct product, like the Sandman statue and some of the watches they did before there actually was even a DC Direct. So there's little DC Collectibles here, and then the 20 years from 1998 to 2018. Crazy, crazy. Just the volume of stuff they've put out in those 20 years that I most likely own. So we're going to take a look at these. We have the Bob Kane Batman from Detective 27 first, then we have the Jim Lee sort of Hush era Batman, and then more recently we have the Greg Capullo Batman, which, you know, the Greg Capullo stuff that DC Collectibles have been doing as a subline of itself that's been running for a long time. So, and the Hush was a pretty prolific line too. So we start with these three. And I think the interesting thing to note of these, if you know your history of DC Direct, they did not always try and mimic the exact style, like really capture the art of a specific artist for a long, long time. They would make things in the style of, but not a direct copy, trying to translate 2D to 3D. And there's been a lot of speculation why they didn't do that, rumors and that sort of thing. But the fact is they didn't. Their Dick Sprang Batman is Sprang-ish. Their Neil Adams Batman is Adams-y. But the Bob Kane was very much trying to match that Detective 27. The Jim Lee, all the Hush line was absolutely trying to match his artwork, as was the Greg Capullo. So if this does get extended into a wave 2, off the top of my head, you know, there's a couple of things that they could pretty easily add to it. There's an absolute Alex Ross Batman from the Justice mini-series, and then there's the Frank Miller Batman that Tim Bruckner did many moons ago that's been repainted several times, but that's very Frank Miller-y, and that would work well in this line too. So there's a couple like that, and then, you know, if those do, all of that does well, perhaps we'll start seeing them take the chance with some original sculpts and really try and match that 2D art into 3D. I hope so. I think this will be a fun and an interesting line and a nice little companion piece. Because these are repaints of older figures, we're back to the original scale, that 6.75 inch figure, as opposed to, you know, you can remember the icons that they just wrapped up was a much smaller scale. So we're back to the original 6.75 inch. On the side panels, you know, they've got this great large artwork of the figures, almost like volumes of a book. They are numbered 1, 2, 3. So I imagine if there's a second wave, we'll continue on with 4, 5, 6. The back has a little bit of cross-sell for each of them. The Bob Kane was sculpted by Jack Matthews. The Jim Lee was sculpted by Tim Bruckner. And then the Greg Capullo was sculpted by Jonathan Matthews. So 3 really great, very talented artists and sculptors in their own rights had their hands. So we will take a look at the Bob Kane first. The Bob Kane's been released a couple of times in a couple of different paint jobs. On the back, he's got a little mini bio that says, "From the vision of legendary artist Bob Kane comes this 6.75 inch Batman black and white action figure based on Bob Kane's art from the first appearance of Batman in Detective Comics 27. Doesn't acknowledge Bill Finger, which I thought they were doing a lot now, but you know, it makes sense. But I'd still love to see both their names on there, so I'll mention him. So let's see, we will open this guy up from the top. They all come with a stand that is very similar to the stand that you see in the actual Batman Black and White statue series. You see in the back, they've got the old Batman Black and White logo. Put that in there. Get it out of the way. Let's see, we've got a couple of twist ties here for Batman. Okay, looking at the Bob Kane Batman, we've got the, as I talked about, the stand that looks a lot like the, you know, the other stands for the statues are usually ovals, but these are round, which match the a lot of the other DC Collectibles stands. With a single peg there, the peg hole. The Bob Kane Batman, there you go. He's got nice, wow, I don't remember him having that much neck articulation, but he certainly does. Look at that, up and down, side to side. Got some nice, nice movement. He's got a great rubber cape split down the back, so you can really get that Batwing look. Semi-ball jointed shoulders with a shoulder swivel there. Got elbow articulation and wrist articulation. Pivots at the wrist. No waist articulation. He bends at the hips and the knees. You can see the stand holds him up pretty well. So you can kind of spread his arms wide and get more of that flared cape look on him. Great looking figure. I've always loved this figure, so having a Batman black and white version of it is pretty exciting. I like that a lot. So there's Bob Kane Batman right there. You can hang out. Let's have a look at the Jim Lee Batman. Also has been released a couple of different times. A couple of different paint jobs. As has the Jim Lee statue that Tim Bruckner did. A couple of different paint jobs, a couple of different scales. They do like the Tim Bruckner Jim Lee stuff. Let's see. Slide him out. So So I'm going to pause here and let you have a look at the unboxing part of this. They've all got a wire across their waist with an extra piece of plastic that protects the paint there. His was trickier than the Bob Kane Batman because you could get to the wire easily through his split cape. This one you have to pull the cape up, get behind this extra piece of plastic where the stand is, and then you can start untwisting the twist tie. A little tricky. I noticed as I was unboxing the Jim Lee one here that they actually put on the little flap the URL for DCCollectibles.com and then hashtag DC Collectibles. So no wasted space. They got everything in there too, so you know where to post about and where to look for more information. So here we have the Jim Lee Batman that you're familiar with. Again, he's got some nice range of motion on the head. Not always all the Batmen would do that, so it's nice to see that. Semi-ball shoulders, they only go out a certain amount. No other sort of pivot. This was very much, when they did this line, we're really trying to preserve the look of the Jim Lee art and not have it broken up by a lot of articulation. So we do have elbow and no wrist, no waist. You do have a little range of motion on the hips, not a lot, and then knees. The legs on this one are a little pre-posed with his one foot turned out, almost like second position in ballet. So you can't do a tremendous amount of different things with him, but he's still a very stocky, solid, intimidating Batman. So he looks great and matches his artwork as he's supposed to. Now let's open this one. Okay, now let's take a look at the Greg Capullo Batman. I've got him open and on his stand. I did notice as I was opening these guys, specifically for the Greg Capullo and the Jim Lee, that the factory for the twist tie that holds them onto the blister, it was clipped so short that they were very difficult and it was very time consuming to get them out of the packaging. So just be prepared for that. If you have some little wire cutters, maybe you can do that on the front where they've got that protective piece. Then you don't have to tear up your fingernails trying to get those wires separated, because that was a little tricky. So the Greg Capullo Batman is the most articulated one of all of them. That was when they were really starting to add more of that in. So we see he's got a good range of motion in his head as well. He's got way more range of motion, full ball joint, I'll say, on these shoulders, as well as that ball joint elbow swivel. He's got regular elbows that are sort of ratcheted, and then his hands rotate too and actually bend in. He's got an ab crunch on the front and a twist waist. He's got fairly decent hips, not the best that they've ever done on him. And then he's got a mid-thigh swivel. He's got some ratchet knees, and then he's got full range of motion on his ankles. They turn, they go up and down. So pretty good range of motion on the Greg Capullo Batman. This rubber cape. So here we go. We'll pull this guy in. We'll pull this guy in, and that is a great look at a fun line. You can really see when they're open, especially, how the paint detail really steps out. The lighter tones on the skin on his face, and just the way sort of the light plays with the different contours and brings out every line, every sculpt detail in these figures. The capes look great. The stands look great, and just kind of a fun line that I personally would love to see continue.